Choosing a class in a new game is sometimes a hard thing to do, and that of course doesn't change for Dune Awakening. So in those 4 videos, we will focus on every single starter class you can get in Dune Awakening. But before we do this, there are 2 things I have to mention. First things first, this video is only focusing on how does the class feel, how does it play, what does it do, what can't it do, and how easy it is to get into the class in the early hours of the game. This is not focusing on how easy it is to pick up this class in the game, because you can learn all the other classes, and some of them are easy to find, some others take a little bit of extra time and work. And then of course we will also not talk about the mid and end game, because this is where you really start to mix and match all the different classes and it becomes much more complicated. So we are focusing here on the basics. Second, and that's also very important, you have probably already noticed that I only mentioned 4 classes, but wait, they are 5. Yeah, that's right. The 5th class is the Planetariologist, and you will pick up that class in-game. There will be an extra video down the line where I tell you where you can pick it up the earliest and what it does, but it is not a class you can choose when you are creating your character. With that said, let's jump into the video. The first class I want to focus on is the Swordmaster, and you have probably already guessed what the Swordmaster is all about, and that is the melee fighting. Now with that said, you are focusing on swords, rapiers, and everything which is bigger than a dagger, and that is very important because there are daggers in the game. And you will also utilize daggers at the beginning of the game, but they are not the weapon of your choice. We will definitely talk about daggers and stabbing all the people in the neck when we are talking about the Bean Jesuit class, but the Swordmaster is not doing that. And I have to say, of all the classes at the beginning, I would go so far to say that the Swordmaster is a little bit tougher, especially if you want to focus on only melee damage, because the problem is that at the beginning, everyone has basically range weapons, and you don't really have a Holtzman shield yet, which is your energy shield, which is protecting you from projectiles. And so when you are getting close to an enemy, which, by the way, the game is at least nice enough to give you deflect ability you can activate, and then you will deflect all the needles flying at you, right? And you don't really need a shield to get close to an enemy. The problem is, when you are close to an enemy, you are stopping the deflecting because, well, you're attacking and not deflecting anymore. And if you have multiple enemies still around you shooting at you, you will still get damage. So that's not really efficient, and it hurts quite a bit, and you might die because of that. So what a lot of Swordmasters are doing, they are still using range weapons at the beginning. The problem is just that most of their talents, most of their abilities are not really designed to support any of the range weapons, so there isn't really much you can really utilize in the first few hours. When you are reaching, though, the second area, the tier 2 area, which is iron, things will change dramatically for you. You will get your first real swords, you will get your shields, right? You will also have more abilities to get faster and quicker to the enemies, and also having some AoE abilities. Like, you will have a lot of stuff unlocked already, which will make you really powerful. The Swordmaster is one of the strongest classes in the game, so much so that apparently they had to nerf the Swordmaster quite a bit in the betas, and they even had to bring in different range weapons to really deal with melee fighters, because the Swordmaster was so strong. So with that said, when you leave behind the tutorial area, a tier 1 area, and you go into tier 2, this is where the Swordmaster starts to shine. But the first few hours, you will not use your melee too often, or you have to craft a lot of bandages and sometimes die to enemies, and you will mostly use the range weapons or the other characters also utilize without getting a lot of perks out of it. But Swordmaster is really fun to play, again, the moment you start to get your actual swords, to get your shields, it's really fun because it's a completely different play style to all the other classes, and I really enjoyed it. But you have to reach that certain spot, which would take you about, give or take, 4 to 6 hours to reach that. So keep that in mind, and that's where the class starts to shine. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick video. If you did, please leave a like. Also, if you want to see more Dune Awakening videos and also, of course, see all the other class videos, I would appreciate if you might consider to subscribe. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. Till then, bye-bye.